a lot of people have around sales because they have had a bad experience with salespeople. Maybe it feels like they've interacted with people that are trying to push something on them, or it feels like a greasy car salesman trying to get them to buy something they don't need. So that bad experience can color your view of an entire field. The best salespeople are people that are deeply, deeply researched, deeply curious, and really try to meet you where you're at and fix whatever problems you have and not tell you, oh, you need to buy XYZ.
Sorry about this. Just Welcome to Perspectives by LBS Student Association. We are going to have a series of podcasts for the current students to meet respectful alumni and get to know their stories. Today, I have the opportunity to introduce my friend from the LBS Student Association, Mr. Karl. I'm very happy to have you here. Having spoken with you so many times, the conversations I've had were so pleasant and joyful, and it's always a smile on the face. I'm very happy to have you here today.
Great to be here. Thank you, Praneeth.
Yes. So, it's been 3 months into LBS. How has it been? How's the experience?
It's been wonderful. I'm in the 1 year program, and it's the first year that they're doing it. So it's been a little bit hectic the first couple months, getting your electives out of the way, bidding. As you know, it's very Hunger Gamesy. That
Tell
being
me about it. The graduate masters know this.
But that being said, it's been wonderful. I think the kind of student profile that has joined this program is exactly what I was looking for. Mid-career professionals, people in a wide array of industries, from tech to healthcare to consulting. And for folks like me that are not really sure what they want to do after, it's been refreshing.
It's funny, like I thought once I joined LBS, I was the person with not having a clarity on what I want to do next.
Yeah.
But the moment I start speaking to more people, it's nice that I'm not the only person on that boat. It's nice that this is a challenge that people can get through together, and it's not only something that I could face.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to know like people being honest about stuff like this. Not everyone's, masked up like, okay, I'm gonna be this. What about?
Yeah.
That's so like I think I don't know. One thing I've noticed about most folks in LBS, they can be as honest and candid, irrespective of what program they belong to. And I think that was one of the nicest things I felt about LBS.
Yeah.
So coming back to you, so you have uh, how was your life pre-LBS? What was uh, what was Carl when he was just finishing up undergrad? What was his plan? What did he end up doing?
Yeah.
And how did the idea of doing an MBA, especially in London, come to you?
He was very uncertain with a lot of things. I did my undergrad at Copenhagen Business School in
Okay.
Denmark, and I love my time there, but I studied international business and politics, which is very broad. And so I thought for sure I would be a consultant because 95% of career fair companies are the big four. And that was kind of the predetermined path. But when I moved back to the Bay Area, I landed a job in tech sales at a company called Cloudflare. For those of you that endured the outage a couple of days ago, sorry about that. That's my former employer. That being said, though, it was really revealing. It taught me a lot about how to have a conversation about very, very technical things in ways that regular people can understand.
Okay.
How do you communicate detailed, in-depth, complex topics in layman's terms? And I love that. So ever since then, I moved from sales into sales onboarding, bringing on new hires. I moved into that team in late 2019. So COVID immediately happened after that, and we had to virtualize everything, which was brand new for a lot of people. And then from there, went into product marketing, where I've been for the last few years. So
Right, right. So you said you moved back to San Francisco, so you've
yes,
spent a good amount of your life in the US.
I have.
Okay, that's nice.
I have.
And how does it feel coming from the land of opportunity, the land of the best fast food to London?
Yeah, honestly, I think London has better fast food than San Francisco.
Oh,
No,
okay.
we
These
don't.
are opinions, these aren't facts. Please do not cancel this episode. But yeah, coming back to you.
I could have peri peri all day at Nando's. Anyway, no, I think it's been to answer your question on like truthfully, um, San Francisco has a lot of upside, and obviously people look at it and they think it's the land of innovation and the center of tech, and I agree with all of that. But it should be said, London has an incredibly talented base of employees. They have more than 10 times the number of citizens who live here. and it is a hub for finance, for tech, for venture capital across all of Europe. And so that was one of the reasons for which I applied, and I was interested in getting kind of a different perspective than the one I was fed in kind of a silo of tech every day, nonstop. So,
So you came from not a tech background
yes.
to a tech sales role. So what were your initial few years getting adapted to like?
Yeah.
Because it's not very easy to understand it. So
Mm,
first you have to understand it, and since you're in a sales, you have to make sure the party on the other side, your
sure.
customer, has to know exactly what you're selling.
Hmm.
How did you ensure that you were able to fix the gap between this, and what was your biggest learning in this journey?
Honestly, it's a great question. I think a very common entry level role in sales is BDR. BDR stands for Business Development Representative. So you're picking up the phone, answering customer questions, and you yourself, most of us were recent college grads. And so it's always been a paradox to me that the least technical people in the company, the most fresh and green, were incidentally also the face of the company, representing it to people who, for many of them, was their first interaction with Cloudflare ever.
Yeah.
And so you're expected to leave a good impression, solve their questions, and sell them on a product that you yourself are just getting known for. So to actually like get to the crux of it, how do you do that? You have to really be curious about what is it that Cloudflare or any company is selling, and how does it work on a deep technical level. So you have to get certified. In your first few weeks, you have to learn all the jargon. And a lot of times you are reading off the webpage when you're speaking to somebody and trying to be very detailed as to what it is you're talking about. So yeah, you're given a script, you're given tips, but ultimately it's about how do you connect with another human and how do you tell them not what are the features you're selling, but what are the problems you're solving for them. Rather than say, oh, we're going to give you distributed denial of service mitigation, which to most people is like, what? You would instead say, we're able to reduce downtime for your website. We're able to speed it up so that people who click on it can access the content in less than zero point 0.5 seconds every single time. There was a really interesting Google study that said that for websites that take longer than 2 seconds to load, 80% of the time people will click out of it if it takes longer than 2 seconds. And so the value of performance, reliability, and security for these sites is unparalleled, especially in the age of AI. So that would be my answer to that.
So, well, that was I could see the amount of passion you had in that answer. So I could see that there was a strong learning in the journey. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there were a few pitfalls in space. But also, what's very interesting to me is sales is one of the most fundamental part of every business. And when you go to a business school, any country, despite the geography, you don't see a lot of people talk about going into sales,
Hmm.
despite it having, and the skill of being a salesperson is needed in any profession, irrespective of where you're going. Why do you see that the trend of going into sales is looked upon, looked down upon? Why is it that it's only the banking and the other white collar jobs that are always seen with more respect, despite banking at a higher level being a very good sales position, in my opinion?
I frankly think it's come down to two things. Number one is the stigma
Mm.
that a lot of people have around sales because they have had a bad experience with salespeople. Maybe it feels like they've interacted with people that are trying to push something on them, or it feels like a greasy car salesman trying to get them to buy something they don't need. So that bad experience can color your view of an entire field. The best salespeople are people that are deeply, deeply researched, deeply curious, and really try to meet you where you're at and fix whatever problems you have and not tell you, oh, you need to buy XYZ. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, especially in tech, a lot of these companies are very, very product led, very engineering led, and less sales led and less marketing led. Now, that's not a bad thing inherently, but a lot of founders will see a product and they'll be like, that sells itself. We don't need a sales team to handle that. It's good enough on its own. And I think for some developers it's true, but you need to scale, and the only way to scale is to have salespeople that know how to communicate like a human being. And a lot of product people and engineering people, that's not what they do day in, day out. They don't know how to, you know, to really understand where.
Yeah, for sure. Given the space at which the tech industry is going to, your idea is going to be your idea until the other person brings it out to the public
Yeah.
and shows it. And right now, I honestly don't feel there's there's one stone of an idea that hasn't been turned. Anything you think of building right now, someone's already, it's not just one person building, probably some one person in your city is building,
Hmm.
and you expand your search, there are more people building on that.
Yep.
So essentially it comes down to the other points. Are people understanding what you're building? Do they know how it's gonna help them?
Hmm.
And as you mentioned that, I feel you think like sales is looked down as those people who are trying to manipulate you to get you to buy something. Because if you see any all pop culture representation of the sales guy,
Yep.
it's this really witty, manipulative person
Hmm.
who is trying to get the best out of you.
Yep.
And so, do you think the stigma from that still exists in the perception of people?
Really does. I think if you are operating in more technical fields, it maybe exists a little bit less because you're expected to know
Right.
how the technology works at a fundamental level. I also think, from the perspective of just hiring good talent, sales teams, especially entry level sellers, make a phenomenal jumping off point for talent for the rest of the company. I mean, at Cloudflare, our BDRs were going into not just account management roles, but they were going into solutions engineering, they were going into infrastructure, they were going into product marketing, the way that I did, or sales enablement. And so half the mission of the team is sure to generate pipeline, but the other half is to incubate talent. You want to see these people that are curious, that are driven, start at the very bottom of the totem pole and then work their way into management positions at all levels of the company. And I think that part of it is very much disregarded a lot of the time, and that's unfortunate.
That's very interesting because you don't really think people who would start as sales would go into more engineering side of roles,
Hmm.
as you mentioned, system engineering, which generally is a very, very technically challenging role that requires a good amount of study, good amount of practicing as a lower level engineer. But obviously, I'm pretty sure the person who need that jump is confident about the knowledge he's gained and being able to do it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to tech sales, I'm pretty sure your the positions you were with were like business to business interaction. Have you had other customer facing interactions too when it comes to sales, like end user interactions?
I have. I've had those especially later on in a marketing role
Okay.
because in the marketing role, you also speak to the customer, but you speak to them in more of a I want to understand, I want to check in, I want to see how you're
Okay.
feeling kind of way. Um, one of the core aspects of marketing is called customer marketing, which is gathering quotes and testimonials for the website, for your landing page, for your blogs, and trying to get an understanding of can you get a high profile logo like Nike or what have you to give you a quote saying, Cloudflare reduced my downtime by 80%. Love that. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. Because then that builds a flywheel effect. So, yes, to answer your question, spoken to customers about everything in the book from getting quotes to checking in on how they're doing to doing quarterly business reviews to validating that our products actually work for them, which, it doesn't always, and that's normal. Like these companies engage in proof of concepts, which validate whether a pilot does what it's supposed to do. And in those periods, which we call POCs, you want to make sure that if it doesn't work for them, you're offering them early access at a discount so that they don't feel short shrifted. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of engagements with customers. I think those engagements on the back end are in some cases even more important than just trying to get them to buy the product because you want to build ongoing loyalty, and the only way to scale a business is with trust. So
So, would you say the skill needed for end user related sales as compared to a business to business sales?
yes.
Do you think there's a good amount of bifurcation on how the skills have to be of a person in the sales? Or would you say the way they should interact is the main criteria that comes down to your sales position in either of the categories?
I think it's the way they interact.
Okay.
I think that's a big part of it. And, it's not just one person that
Mm.
makes this happen. It's a very cross functional team effort across solutions engineers and account. We pass time, but
I Earlier this month we had the AI summit at LBS.
yes,
Were you a part of it? Did you attend?
I did attend. I loved it. I had a great time there. Some prospective future employers like Anthropic and Mistral and Cohere were represented. And for me, coming from San Francisco, I didn't really know what I was expecting, but I really loved. I mean, the quality of conversation around not just are we or are we not in a bubble, but how are these tools going to be used in the future? And more importantly, how are they used in tandem with each other was fascinating to me. Because in the context of school, LBS is very AI forward. We are the first European institution to create a partnership with OpenAI, embedding it in our systems and encouraging students to use it in a way that makes sense, not in a way that's plagiarizing. And I think that is really reflective of a shift in universities more generally, where professors have to say, okay, we acknowledge students are going to use these tools. Let's make sure they use it in a way that improves their critical thinking skills, that makes them genuinely curious about what they're doing, and that complements other formats like oral exams or group assignments. And that balance is what I have personally been most impressed by with LBS so far.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like uh, I've seen the way the professors also be positive on AI
Yep.
rather than looking at it as, okay, fine, you're not going to learn anything if you use AI.
Yep.
They've acknowledged the benefits and also been sure that the students understand, like, let's not turn off our brains if we're using AI.
Yep.
And that's where the pitfall of an AI comes to, in a
Mm-hmm.
personal level for me. I feel a lot of times we just end up turning off our brain while using.
Yep.
So I completely agree on you about LBS being AI forward, and I'm really glad that the AI summit was a good success because as a business school, we're being tech forward is very interesting. And as I've spoken to more people want to get into the tech side of things,
Yeah.
which I was surprised as I was thinking it's either consultancy
Mhm.
or banking that people go for post business school. But that's very interesting. And for someone who's, let's say, the graduate masters who don't have, a lot of us don't have experience or work for near or done a couple of internships. For someone like us, who come from a business degree, want to enter the tech space, other than the sales and marketing position,
Mhm.
what other domain can someone with a business degree leverage their skills to get into the tech side?
I mean, so many. We had we had Steve Blank, the founder of the Lean Startup methodology, present at the Entrepreneurship Club last month, and he was explaining how entry-level roles go much beyond just sales. I mean, operations, enablement, onboarding, product. You can get an internship in any of those teams and then turn that into a full-time job if you're at the right company.
Hmm.
So I think that's critical. And to your point, even beyond the AI Summit, LBS is really trying to create a path into technology that is differentiated and shows that the school is more than just about consulting. I mean, we had CMO of Meta, Alex Schultz, here a couple weeks ago. You might have gone to that talk.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of how, number one, the school has the institutional resources to ensure this kind of thing is happening. But number two, they're trying to bake it into the career center and the career pathways for 1 and 2 year programs, which is, for me, really exciting, as I also want to go back into tech after graduating.
That's great. And would you say you want to look at tech in London or back in San Francisco?
I am interested in either. Uh, for me, it'll likely be a big tech city like London, New York, San Francisco. But I do want to pivot from marketing into corporate development. So corporate development could be M&A, investor relations, partnerships, likely in a large either cybersecurity or AI company. I'm very open to it, but I do want to build on this wave that's happening.
Okay. As you've slightly mentioned about if are we in a bubble,
Yes.
what is your take? Or do I
Uh,
have to sell my Nvidia stock right now?
I would not sell your Nvidia stock right now. I think that, no matter where we are, things will course correct. Um, I don't believe that we are in a dot-com style bubble where a lot of these businesses will go under and then reemerge out of the ashes. I think there will be many survivors from this, but I do think that there is overinflation in the sector. Absolutely. I mean, you look at just the way in which there is circular investment between Nvidia, AMD, OpenAI, Anthropic, how the same companies are moving their funding from OpenAI to Anthropic to Mistral, and you start to ask yourself, like, are consumers genuinely going to feel like these are differentiated enough that there is a path to scale for each and every one of these companies? So that is evidently a concern. But no matter what, as a student that is graduating in the next year or two, I would say that should not deter you from entering this space, because the fear of a layoff is going to be way lower on anybody's radar than your personal curiosity and investment in the AI space. and the ability to grow within it, which is critical for me and hopefully for a lot of other people.
Yeah, my reason for asking you about the valuation was also about how a student looking for job opportunities should look at.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, tech companies are the ones who are, especially the ones which are growing the AI space, are more dependent on the VCs. And once VCs see there's actually a bubble and they, let's say, pull the plug out, the entire companies and the lowest hanging fruits are the ones who are going to be the most affected there,
Yep.
which are going to be the fresh graduates outside school.
My advice to those fresh graduates would be if they do want to enter it, look at three things. Either look to join an extremely established player like OpenAI, Anthropic, Mistral, it doesn't matter. The value of that is threefold in that you're able to essentially move across the industry, even if for some reason you get laid off, because you have that brand cachet. The number two thing you want to do is look at who's investing in the company. Who are the VCs that are backing it? Sequoia, Lightspeed, A16Z. Like, are they institutionalized and do they have actual legitimate backing? And the third thing you want to do is if you are deciding to work for a startup and maybe you're deciding to work for one that doesn't have a traditional VC backing it, you want to make sure that that product is fundamentally different enough to either scale on its own or be the target of a buyout in the next year or two. If none of those three apply, do some more research.
Or just take take the bet and try to dabble out if you see something.
Yeah, why not?
Because unemployment's a lot more uncertain than sketchy employment.
This is true. I'm going to put that on my gravestone. I love it.
Also, as we've had a great conversation so far, understanding sales, understanding the world of tech and AI and everything, this is cool. I want our speakers to know this interesting fact about you. A couple of years ago, Karl made a speech for the Prince of
Denmark.
Denmark.
Yeah.
And a year after that, the prince became the king. Please enlighten us on how to make speeches like that and how it came down to like you writing a speech for it.
Sure. So a bit of context on what you're saying here, Praneeth. I was on the organizing committee of the Graduate Business Forum. For those who don't know, the Graduate Business Forum is a nonprofit that every single year takes place in a different MBA program around the world and brings together the top MBA students everywhere. And I hosted back in 2018 when I was a student at Copenhagen Business School. And one of our keynote speakers was supposed to be somebody from the monarchy. We didn't know who. We thought it would be a low-level, not employee, but somebody representing the crown, maybe a third distant cousin of the king or whatever. And it turned out Crown Prince Frederick said yes. So I had written my speech completely without the knowledge of who would do it. He shows up to our campus a few weeks later and he delivers it verbatim. And it was about, the Nordic model, the welfare system, the importance of interdependency and globalization and all those things that are apparently being thrown at the wayside in these days. But he delivered it with gusto, word for word, and that was by far one of the biggest accomplishments personally for me. So, yeah.
How was that a point of conversation in your interview for LBS?
I did briefly mention it. Yes. I think speech writing is a passion of mine. I mean, I was also a campaign manager before my very first sales job, managing a local candidate back in San Francisco. And you learn a lot from canvassing, let me tell you. If you haven't knocked on doors in politics before, if you haven't phone banked in politics, it's a very hard job. You get a lot of curses being thrown your way, but you learn a lot from it. So
you were a boss, always in the space of selling something or campaigning or vouching for something.
I'll tell you what, Praneeth, it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt to have that experience. So
for sure. Like, yeah. I mean, every failure builds you to a bigger person. So yeah. Whatever hit you made you the bigger person you are today.
So very kind. Thank you.
It was a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully have more such conversation with you on campus, on camera, off camera.
Yep.
But this was lovely. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.